begin the ceremony, I would like to thank all the distinguished guests present today. Commander of the 184th Operational Support Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Pete Austin. Commander of the 161st Intel Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Brad Hilbert. I almost said Brad Link. You take it. Commander of the 184th Intelligence Support Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Locke. Usually it's all written down, but we missed that. And retired Commander of the 184th ISRG, Colonel Craig Anderson. And I don't see any other retirees. Joel's dressed like one, but. Okay, Captain Kirk Porter, would you please introduce your distinguished family guests?
You bet. My family that flew down here from Austin or up here gave up some 60-degree weather to be here in 70. My daughter Keely Cano, her husband Billy, and my two grandkids Chavi and Dylan.
The 184th welcomes you and thanks for being here. At this time, I'd like to invite Colonel Austin forward for some comments and to award the Meritorious Service Medal.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, I appreciate everybody coming today. Kind of just put this together a couple days ago when we found out Kirk was going to be here and then bring some guests and everything, so I'm glad we were able to put this together. And this really is a unique retirement. It's really, I'm honored and humbled to be your last commander after a very storied career. I don't know if everybody knows about Kirk's career, but started out going to the Air Force Academy, getting commissioned there, and flying helicopters, and then eventually coming back, I think a graduate of Stanford University, I believe, came back after that graduation from Stanford, became an Air Force Academy instructor, and after doing that for about 4 years, went off to the civilian world to work down for Motorola down in Texas, and then after some time outside the military, decided to get back in, looked at the what was available here in the Intel world up here in Kansas, and decided that was something he'd like to be a part of, and came back and served out the rest of his career here. So we really appreciate that. He's been doing great things for us, both just as a Guard member and then also on the mission side as a ground mission supervisor. Really been helping out not only us, but going off to, I think it was DGS-1, I believe, and doing a lot of training and everything for them up there. Air Force core values. Kirk really reflects that. Integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. Very much reflects those. There's one of those I'd like to, I like to think of one thing I can think of in the past, and I'm going to go with the service before self. And I'm going to think back about probably about 3 years or so. I think we're working on the fiscal year 2014 mobilization, and a few of you will remember this, but so we're trying to do everything kind of like we're doing right now, but on a little bit bigger scale in 2014 mobilization. I think we had 89 folks, and so we're trying to fill all the spots to get that all sent off. And I believe we were short a ground mission supervisor, and there was some expectation. We thought, I think that Kirk Porter was going to sign up for that, and he wasn't on the list. It was like, what's going on? We're short here. So made some last minute scramble to contact Kirk, and found out he was more than willing to do it. He just didn't sign up for it because he was afraid it was going to put some younger airmen out of the position they could come on. So once he heard that we were looking for him, he was like, "Hey, I'll do that. I'm more than happy to stand up. I just didn't want to take away the opportunity from someone else." And that's very much a true Kirk Porter fashion right there. Just I'll do what's needed. I'll do as much or little as you need, and I'll put the mission first, and also put other people's careers ahead of his own. And he is actually retiring with the traditional retirement. That year of mobilizations, a few hundred extra points is a good thing for you. But just like I say, service before self, looking to make the opportunity available to somebody else if they needed it. So, as far as retirement, do you care if we talk about your age? So, there's a thing in the Guard called a gray area retiree, where basically you do your service and then you wait till you turn 60 to get that retirement. And for every other single retirement I've been to for a drill status member, and I've been to a lot of them over the last 27 years, if they're retiring drill status, they had to wait and get that retirement. Well, Kirk only has to wait till tomorrow. Because that's his 60th birthday. So actually, he's a gray area retiree, but with no gray area. He's in uniform officially today, and he's officially age 60 and getting his retirement and getting his TRICARE tomorrow. So, which is a great thing. It's almost like getting an active retirement. Matter of fact, just a few hundred points short of being right where an AGR retiree would be. So, but we certainly appreciate all your service, and just gave him a hunting and fishing application. Want to get that done before while he's still, because tomorrow he can't send that in. And I'm looking at those things. I've been filling those out, and it says you need the hunter safety course unless you're born before July 1957. It's like, who in the hell in the military was not born before July 1957? And I'm like, oh, we do have one. So you can actually get the hunter card part of it without having the safety course. Probably one of the last members that will do that. So, anyway, with that, if you could come on up and we'll go ahead and present the MSN. And thanks for being a guy, because if you were a female, I would not be able to talk all that age related. Okay.
Attention order. United States of America, to all who shall see these presents greeting. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America, authorized by Executive Order 16 January 1969, has awarded the Meritorious Service Medal, 1st Oakley Cluster, Technical Sergeant Kirk R. Porter, Meritorious Service, 6 June 2008 to 9 January 2016. Technical Sergeant Kirk R. Porter distinguished himself in performance of outstanding service to the United States while assigned to the 161st Intelligence Squadron, 184th Intelligence Wing, Kansas Air National Guard, McConnell Air Force Base, Kansas. During this period, his superb technical expertise was critical to the success of Distributed Ground Station Kansas. As a ground mission supervisor, Sergeant Porter executed 443 U-2 Dragon Lady missions in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, providing over 4,430 hours of threat warning and enhancing the safety of the mission pilot and coalition forces. Sergeant Porter's extensive technical knowledge was evidenced as he co-authored initial training plans and evaluation profiles for multiple mission positions, an integral piece to the success of the first ever U-2 missions crewed exclusively by Air National Guard. The networking abilities of Sergeant Porter were instrumental in establishing relationships with higher headquarters, exacting standards for the U-2 Dragon Lady intelligence processing, exploitation, and dissemination, leading to the way for the Air National Guard in the development of tactics, techniques, and procedures. Finally, as a subject matter expert, instructor, and evaluator, he trained or evaluated 4 ground mission supervisors, making a positive, lasting impact on Distributed Ground Station Kansas. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Sergeant Porter culminated a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself, the Air National Guard, the United States Air Force. Given under my hand, 21 December 2015, signed, Michael T. Benerdi, Colonel, Commander 184th ISRG.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Colonel. Technical Sergeant Mickey Grogan, would you please come forward to present Captain Porter with the squadron plaque?
So I get to say a few words. Kirk's been around since I came back to the unit full time. I was one of the 4 trainees that he had as GMS trainees, and I couldn't have asked for a better instructor, a better friend. You truly, I think, are a guardsman. You may not have started one, but we sure are going to end this one. So this is presented to Captain Kirk R. Porter with our sincere appreciation for outstanding leadership and support of the 184th Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Group.
Thank you, Mickey. Our next presentation will be by Technical Sergeant Nathan Cheney to present the nation's flag.
Nate just thought he was coming for a beer. He didn't know he was going to have to.
I think we met in California. We were traveling around, bounced between DJS 2 and 1, kind of felt like a traveling carnival, maybe circus was more appropriate. But then we came back, stood up here, and I think everybody was running around with their heads on fire trying to figure stuff out. And I was not going to say anything about age, but I think Colonel Austin blew that one out of the water. But it's good to have a man with experience here and brought the calmness to kind of help bring everything together. So I appreciate everything you've done. Great.
Thank you, Nate.
Yeah.
Next is Captain Keith Marshall to present the certificate of retirement.
Okay. So unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to work with him too much while you were here with our unit, but I was definitely aware of the contributions that you were making. Your role in this unit definitely was bigger than it would appear to be on paper. And I think the contributions that you made during your time here, both to our people and to our mission, will definitely be remembered for a long time. So with that, I have the last couple pieces before you officially retire. The first one is a certificate of appreciation for service in the Armed Forces of the United States of America, Captain Kirk R. Porter. I extend to you my personal thanks and sincere appreciation of a grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice, in keeping with the proud traditions of military service. Your commitment and dedication have been an inspiration for those who will follow in your footsteps and for all Americans who join me today in saluting you for a job extremely well done. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future. Barack Obama, Commander-in-Chief. And then the one that counts. Certificate of retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. To all who shall see these presents greeting. This is to certify that Captain Kirk R. Porter, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the 10th day of January of the year 2016, signed by Stanley E. Clark, Director of the Air National Guard, and Mark A. Welsh III, Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. So, congratulations. Thanks, sir. Thank you.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I present our guest of honor, Captain Kirk Porter, Kansas Air National Guard retired. Captain, the floor is yours.
A while back, when I started thinking about a retirement ceremony, I wasn't initially thinking of even having one. But then I got to thinking, when else can you speak your mind and people feel obligated to listen to you? I just decided also, I had to look back on some advice I got earlier in my career that when given the opportunity to speak in front of a large group of people, don't turn it down, right? So that's here. And then I actually came up with a few things I wanted to say, so I figured it was worth 20 minutes of your time to be here. And plus, it's just my retirement. I wanted to have some fun going out on the last day, so I'm making you sit through this. So. My son-in-law Billy is going to be recording it because my family's not used to seeing me have a good time, so we're getting it on tape. And I think most of you are very, somewhat familiar with my background. But I did bring a few slides here today, and Greg's going to be running the projector for me. It was a year or so ago, the Jayhawk Flyer ran just a kind of a brief story about my experiences, and this was the picture that made the Flyer publication back then. That's at Fort Rucker, and this is the second picture. This is a stage field that they would fly us out to when we would do our flying in the initial aircraft, the TH-55. Now I'm going to show you the picture that I really wanted the Jayhawk Flyer to run. This is my graduation class. The Army officers in the back row. Look at the hair in the front row. just an indication of how things have changed since 1979. We had some good hair back then, I'll say that for us. Oh yeah, something else I found. Going through some storage bins. Took me back a few years. Oops. I don't know, I guess they still pass these out these days, right? The BCDs, right? This is from about 1980. Back then, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing these, but they actually look kind of stylish now. Times have changed. All right, let me get into what I really wanted to say today. I've even got a title for my speech. What you gonna do? And this speech kind of grew beyond the point where I could memorize it, so I've got to speak from notes. After about a half a page, I can't memorize it. So let me just ask for a show of hands here. How many come to these retirements hoping to hear a few parting shots? There we go. It's not just for the beer, right? Now that I've got your attention, I'll get into it. Let me just start off by saying that what I will always remember about this organization is how I'm most impressed by just how accepting this group is of different personalities. This isn't always the case with many organizations, right? Most groups have a culture that's difficult to stray too far outside of. But the fact that I could be accepted proves that this is not the case here. I really did marvel at how I could be accepted in the same group, but also found a place for Charlie Ballard. I told him I was going to speak about him today. I'm surprised he showed up. Can anyone imagine any two personalities more different than Charlie and me? When the high altitude mission first started up here in 2011, Charlie and I had some pretty spirited conversations. And Charlie certainly isn't the only person in the group who approaches issues from a different direction than I do. It's just that we're friends. I respect him. He respects me. So that allows me to pick on him. Many organizations claim they value diversity, but what they really mean is a diversity relative to superficial qualities like race or gender. It's been my experience that the 184th truly values diversity. Now, there's one reason that Charlie and I can coexist in the same organization. You've got excellent leadership here. Your leadership not only values differences of opinion, they see the strengths that people on the fringes can bring into an organization. Charlie and I do require some special handling. Not every leader can pull that off. And I want to thank two of them who took a risk by bringing me on board, Mike Benerdy and Craig Anderson. And I hope I didn't give them too many reasons to regret hiring me over the past 8 years. I put the blame on them because there's nothing anyone can do to them now. Mike Benerdy isn't here anyway, so I can talk about him, I guess. I know in many ways it was a challenge for some of you to deal with me. I thank you for accepting that I like to use first names. I know that had to ruffle a few feathers. For those of you who reciprocated and called me Kirk, I thank you for venturing into my world. Let me go back to my time as a helicopter pilot. I learned some things about myself flying helicopters. A little bit about pilot training. The TH-55 is not an especially easy aircraft to fly. And primarily that's because it doesn't have an automatic throttle like the larger jet engine helicopters. People always ask me if flying helicopters is difficult, or at least more difficult than flying fixed wing. And I never know how to answer that. It wasn't hard for me, but yet there are people who wash out of helicopter training. So it was difficult for them. Like a lot of things in life, you're going to find some things you're good at that other people aren't, and you're going to struggle with some things that come easy to others. Most of the lessons I learned from flying helicopters didn't sink in until after I quit flying. I'll relate just one of those. It happened early on when we were flying the TH-55. They solo you in the 55 before 10 hours because they figure that if you can't solo by 10 hours, you may be able to do it later, but it's kind of a waste of time because you're going to wash out after that. So I soloed at 4.5 hours, and the way that usually went was you would start off at Mother Rucker, we called it, Fort Rucker Airfield, and they would fly you out about 5 miles to a stage field with your instructor. You'd land, and then you do 3 traffic patterns, and that was the extent of your first solo. Well, my first solo was a little different. I was on my final approach, and the tower told me that a storm was coming in, and that after landing, they wanted me to, instead of waiting for my instructor to get on board, he had already taken off back in the bus, and they asked me to just fly it back to Rucker. Well, we hadn't had any kind of navigation training. The instruments are very basic. But yet I knew that once I took off, you know, just 5 miles away, you could see it. So I knew I could find my way back. I wasn't too concerned, even though I had never done it before. But about halfway back, the storm just dumped on us. It was just letting loose. And we flew the TH-55 in the summer without the doors on. So I was getting soaked. And then I'll never forget turning base leg and feeling like somebody just opened up with a fire hose on me. It was, you know, the rain was coming in from the side. I turned that base leg and was just, couldn't have been any more wet if I was in a swimming pool. But I landed okay, didn't think anything of it, you know, no sweat, no big deal. The thing was, is I kept having experiences like that as I was flying. Numerous examples. When I look back on them, I realize I'm lucky to be alive. And I didn't appreciate it for a while, but I had what I would call an unnatural lack of fear of flying. And I realized this is not a good attribute for a pilot, right? You've heard the expression, there are bold pilots, there are old pilots, but there are no old, bold pilots. And so flying was something I excelled at and enjoyed, but decided after becoming a father that it probably wasn't a career I should pursue further. And there are probably other people that are thankful I didn't pursue it any further either. I scared a lot of people. It's been my experience that finding something you excel at is rare. Being able to spend a large amount of time in your life doing it is even rarer still. Let me just suggest that when you find something you feel special doing, don't expect it to last forever. For we weren't given life on this earth to be happy or comfortable. That's a difficult truth for most to first of all understand. It's even harder to accept and embrace. Most of our lives are spent dealing with one challenge after another, and life isn't just about surviving those challenges. The measure of a man is how he finds a way to contribute and be a positive influence on others that he shares his life with while struggling in his mind just to survive. One of the milestones in life is understanding just what success truly is. It's different for each of us, and we really can't let others define what success is for us. That's why it's important for us to challenge ourselves. I went through jump school not because I thought jumping out of an airplane would be exhilarating or because I'm an adrenaline junkie. I know most of you know that. I just wanted to know if I could jump out of an airplane and not pass out from fear on the way down. After getting the answer to that, I've had no desire to jump ever again. Besides learning about ourselves, there's another reason to challenge ourselves. We have to find ways to be successful in environments where we don't necessarily excel. And that's where most of us spend a large part of our lives. I didn't realize the benefits of sports until years after high school. In school, academics was something I excelled at. I knew how to study, take tests, get good grades. That was my area of expertise. As an athlete, I was mediocre at best. I made the varsity baseball and tennis teams in a small school, but I was never a standout for a number of reasons. But what I had to learn from the years I played sports was how to contribute in a field where I was never going to excel. That, I think, is what most of life is about. We're not always going to have the natural talents and abilities to do well. We have to find ways to adapt and add value to situations that are not always particularly well suited to what we consider our strengths. Some people who have excelled here in this organization truly have some natural abilities and are well suited for this occupation. But the larger number of those whom you would identify as successful have adapted and done well despite the skill set they started with. Many of you got dumped into the intel field after having built a successful career in maintenance or some other AFSC. Some of you excelled in this new career, perhaps unlike any other successes you've had earlier. Others have had to stretch your skills and personality in circumstances that have really been challenging for you. How do you deal with these challenges? Well, let me tell you about my grandpa. He was a man of few words, and many of the words he did use only had 4 letters. He was a little rough around the edges. Grandpa had a successful career with the railroad until his late 30s, when the railroads really downsized. After losing a responsible senior position with the railroad, he took a job as a janitor in the local school district. Now, over the years, he advanced to the district maintenance superintendent, but that transition to his janitor's job struck me as one that would have destroyed many men. While visiting him one time, I asked him about it. Grandpa, how did you deal with losing your railroad job and having to start over as a janitor? I'll always remember his reply, Kirk, what you gonna do? Upon first hearing that, you may not recognize the profound wisdom underlying the question he was offering as advice. The first thing I didn't hear Grandpa say was, Kirk, that's a stupid question. Because when you understand what he's saying, that's what's implied. The follow-up I didn't hear from Grandpa was, Kirk, there are times in life when you're expected to just suck it up and do the best you can. It really is as simple as that. We don't hear that kind of advice often enough. When life sucks, suck it up. Yeah, I got the slide back up there. Thank you, Greg. So what are you going to do? What you going to do? First, you're going to realize that life is not about being happy. It just isn't. Second, you're going to anticipate a life of peaks and valleys. I'm 60. Life hasn't flattened out for me. Third, when you're on the peaks looking down, you're going to thank God. Fourth, when you're in the valleys, unable to see out, you're also going to thank God. And then you're going to start working to get out of it. I'm going to finish up Grandpa's lesson by relating an example of a peak and a valley of my guard career that both came during the same high-altitude mission. Anyone here know what I'm most proud about in my service in the Guard? I'm a simple guy, I really am. Slide, dude. Yep, the call sign Sparkle Pony. I can't think of anything that represents who I am better than that call sign. And I've only met one other guy with a call sign that comes as close to being as cool as Sparkle Pony. And I don't think he's here today. That's Keebler, John Suter. That's pretty cool, too. The story of Sparkle Pony. The missions that we fly, sometimes I think the most important part of my job is just keeping people awake. And so when I get a good crew that sometimes gets a little rowdy, I would sometimes let it go. But this one particular night, I was giving the pilot in brief, and we got to a point, for some reason, I don't know why, I was briefing him that if we had to call in the clear on an unsecure frequency, I would need to use his unclassified call sign. He told me what it was. And then just, I hadn't anticipated it at all. He asked me, well, what's your unclassified call sign? And the wheel started turning, you know. And I'd never come up with a question. Do I have an unclassified call sign? I don't think I do. Well, I got to make something up. And I couldn't think of anything, you know. Minutes later, I thought, why don't you just use Jayhawk? You know, that would have been simple, but I didn't. I said, sir, just call me GMS. You know, that's not classified, is it? No. So I couldn't come up with anything, and that was so embarrassing, because you know the GMS really is, if not the face of DGS Kansas, the voice of DGS Kansas, and I felt, God, I really let the crew down on that, and it just was a real down moment for me. It may not have seemed like it, but you know, I felt responsible for, like I said, being the voice of DGS Kansas, and I totally let everybody down then. So about half an hour later, I thought, okay, I got to do something about this, and so I announced through the dig-if, we're going to have a give the GMS a call sign night. And so I started getting in call signs. Most of them I can't repeat here today. And I realized how the crew was way too familiar with me. Some of them were very familiar. I guess Nate's was one of them. What was Nate's? Do you remember Nate?
That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, I don't remember. Oh, I know, Jerry Tall. That's what it was, Jerry Tall, yeah. So they came in kind of along that line, Jerry Tall. But then finally, some senior airman out in Maryland, didn't know me from Jack, he came up with one, and as soon as he hit it, and this was like 3 or 4 hours into the mission, finally somebody gave me one, and I said, yeah, Sparkle Pony, that's me. I just busted up laughing and had to go with Sparkle Pony. So that's the story of Sparkle Pony. But it was like the valley I went through of not being able to come up with a call sign, and then just getting the crew, you know, some laughs that night, and I got a cool call sign out of it. So you know, going from the valley to the peak in one night, that's kind of what life is all about, really. Peaks and valleys. After getting my call sign, Sparkle Pony, I actually thought of another cool call sign. But you don't give yourself a call sign, and this wasn't as cool as Sparkle Pony anyway. But I didn't want it to go to waste. So I want to finish up my little retirement speech here by starting a new tradition in the 184th. Right now, I'm the oldest guy in the 184th group, right? Almost 60, I'm the oldest guy. When I leave, Liz Slater will take my place as the oldest. And Liz, would you please stand up here while I give you your new call sign? New call sign. Not only do you get your own call sign, you get a cute little action figure to hang from your name tag. Thanks, Liz. You're missing that here. I follow up here with the ogre salute here. When you're outside and you see the ogre now, the hand raised with the battle axe up here, right? That's it, last item. For sitting patiently while I ramble. Great, last slide. Free beer in the heritage room. Thank you all.